Hi everyone, it's Lisa from Down to Earth Gardening and Design. Welcome to the video today, which is another video on waking up your Amaryllis after dormancy. So our very last video last week was about bringing out our Amaryllis from dormancy and waking them up so we can get some beautiful flowers this winter. But in the mix of the Amaryllis that I took out of dormancy, I had this one that I'd like to repot. So when you're waking them up, that is one great way you can kind of jolt them and wake them up from their little nap. And that's really just repotting it. So I wanted to walk you through that today as I'm doing this one here. And I also want to talk a little bit about the materials that we're using because that's very important, and then how we're going to treat this one because it's a little special and that it's getting a new pot this holiday season. Okay, so there are some reasons why you should and can repot your Amaryllis, not just because you want to give it a nice new container, but also they typically only need to be repotted about on average every 3 years. So they're very happy if they're planted in their pot properly, and you really don't need to do that unless you want to wake them up. If you're struggling with waking them up a little bit, you can repot it. Or also if you notice that there is something kind of strange with the soil, it just doesn't look right, or as in this case, if it's planted a little too deep. So Amaryllis, and I'm going to talk more about this in a bit, they really like to have either a third or up to a half above the soil line. Otherwise, they really can rot if they're planted too deep. So I just purchased this one last year and I did enjoy some really beautiful flowers on it. And again, if you didn't see the tag, it's Minerva. So there are actually a couple reasons why I am going to repot this. So again, I've just taken out a dormancy and it did have some debris on it. It was a little messy, so I cleaned it up a little bit so I could really see what was going on. You want to make sure that your bulbs are firm, but when you're taking it out of its old container, you really can check that out a little more thoroughly. So materials that you need. So I do have my new pot, and it's important that you pick the correct size, meaning it needs to have some depth to it because this is a pretty tall bulb and it does need some space for its roots to grow. So the height has to be correct, but also more importantly, or maybe just as important, is the width or the diameter. So Amaryllis like snug spaces. That's really how they shine and do their best. And you really want to have the diameter be so that there's only an inch around the bulb itself. So no more than an inch. So a nice snug space. Now you'll also notice that this is an old pot that I've really been dying to use. I just love the shape and the style of it. But it's also terracotta, and I love using terracotta for my Amaryllis because they don't like to be soggy. So they really like dry soil, and the terracotta is going to wick away any excess moisture. And then lastly but not least, I love how sturdy these are, and because they're such a sturdy material that the containers don't get tippy. Because if you're an Amaryllis lover, you know that they get quite tall and they can flop over. So again, this is a nice sturdy pot. You can also use there's some really pretty ceramic containers. So get creative with your container. This is just what I'm using today, and I feel like it has some really good pluses. So next you want your potting soil, which I have in my trug here. And I just have a nice houseplant potting soil, and we will put up some information on what we're using in the description. We'll give you some links if you're interested. And that's it, just a little tray or something, or a potting mat to contain your mess because it's winter and we're working inside. Okay, so here we go. Let's remove the Amaryllis bulb. I'm going to try to save the tag. Let's remove the bulb and make a little bit of a mess. So it's very dry. I have not watered this yet, so it came right out. And you can see this nice extensive root system. So I do want to get a closer look at the bulbs. So I'm going to peel away some soil. So far, so good. So it does seem like it's been in that plastic container for quite a while. Nice and healthy. The bulb is firm. Just going to loosen it up a little bit. You can also see why you need some depth to your new pot, because look at this root system here. So this is what the bulb looks like. Nice and healthy, makes me very happy. And this is really what your Amaryllis bulb should look like if you're buying new bulbs, because right now is a great time to add to your collection, or if you're a beginner, to try your hand at growing some Amaryllis. So this is how they will come. And so also this technique that I'm doing here today is exactly how you should be planting a new Amaryllis bulb. So there's another hot tip for you. Okay, so with your container, you also need to make sure there is a drainage hole. Very important, because again, they like to be dry and they don't want to be sitting in water. So drainage hole is very important. All right, so because there is a drainage hole here, you may have had a little peek of some rocks on my tray, and there's a method to my madness. I like to put some gravel or some rocks in the bottom of my containers just to help with some drainage here. So I'm just placing it right in the bottom. And then, although I like to recycle my soil, I will probably put this in my compost and give it some new fresh soil, since we're doing this and we're probably not going to do this for about another 3 years. So I have pre-moistened the soil, and I'm just going to go ahead and put some in the bottom here. I love how deep this container is. Okay, and then we're going to give this a little test, because it's got quite the root system. So I am going to make a little nest for it in here. And just nestle it in. Okay, so remember, we want to leave either a half or a third above the soil line. So because I have such a deep pot here, I can afford to put a little more in here. Try this again. Okay, and now you can see the diameter and how much room I have around the outside edge here, which isn't much. I would say it's about 1 inch. So it could even be a little tighter, a little snugger, but this is going to work. Okay, then we're going to top it off with a little bit of soil here. Okay. Now remember, you can make it a little bit decorative, so you can go ahead and put some moss or some decorative glass pebbles on the top, whatever you like. But that is how it looks when it's all planted up. And I am going to try to hang on to this tag for as long as I can. So I'm going to put it in my container. And then I'm going to give it a little dish to catch the water. And my husband's videoing me today, so now he knows where all of our plates disappear to. And I'm going to bring it to the windowsill and put it with the other amaryllis. So it's a little bit bright over here, but I do want to show you that I'm putting it over here with the lineup. And last but not least, we're going to be giving it a little bit of water. Okay, so the soil is moist, but I want to give it a drink. And remember, just around the outside, never down into the stalk because your bulb will rot. So we have it here in this warm, toasty room. It likes to be about 65 degrees. It's probably a little bit warmer, but it's going to wake up, and it's also getting some good indirect sunlight. So that's it. No more water for this beauty until it starts throwing up a bloom or a bud, I should say, or some stems. So we're going to withhold water. It's going to be tough, but some tough love here, and wait until it starts waking up. Now, it may take a few weeks. Don't panic. They sometimes do. I've waited 4 or 5 weeks sometimes to start seeing something, so just be patient and you'll be enjoying some beautiful winter amaryllis blooms. So that's it for today. I hope you've had fun with me getting your hands dirty. I miss gardening outside, so I'm getting a little fix today. But thank you so much for joining me, and if you liked the video, please go ahead and tap like and hit subscribe to our channel because we have so many more gardening videos coming your way.